All right, as to quote Simon Pegg from the World's End, let's get this antique on the road show.
Good evening, and welcome to Outpost Frequencies Extras, where we've been talking about some controversial movies and extreme cinema. Joining me,
Not for normies.
not for normies. Not gonna do that. and and so today we are talking about some what might consider a classic, and it is definitely a hard film to watch, and that is I Spit on Your Grave, or as it's known in America, it's got a different title, isn't it?
No, that's the U.S. title.
Oh right, the other
It had
title.
an original title that was like Day of the Woman, I
That's
think.
right. Most of the times when you look it up, it comes up as Day as the Woman, but it's also called I Spit on Your Grave. Now, the simple premise of the story is a young lady goes.
Big city thinker.
Yes, goes to a quiet little retreat, which is always the start of these movies, and there she starts writing and enjoying the countryside and everything, and she gets attacked by is it four or five men?
Yeah.
Attacked and quite brutally
Some
raped.
would say that she provokes 4 or 5 men with her, whorish clothes. I mean, she was kind of asking for it. Some would say, not me.
Yeah, obviously, and then. But
cut to the chase. She gets gang raped by all of them.
But I mean, it's not just a gang rape, because I mean that happens to her. She gets away and she gets to a house, but then it carries on, and it's a good like 20. I'm glad you found it so amusing.
Yeah,
it's a good like 20-minute scene. It's actually quite horrific, but she then comes back at a later stage and gets revenge on all the men.
Yeah, one at a time.
This woman will soon cut, chop, break, and burn 5 men beyond recognition. And there isn't a jury in this country that will convict her.
Of course, there's a castration scene.
Of course. Obviously, you couldn't have a movie like this without a castration scene. Now, I mean, this originally came out in 1978. So, I mean, it was quite early, and it was obviously, quite explicit in the way it was done, particularly the one castration scene. I mean, what did you make of it as a movie?
I don't like it too much. I don't know. I never liked it much because it's probably the problem was that before I'd seen that movie, I'd seen a lot of movies in that vein, so it was very predictable. It's kind of by the numbers. At the time, I'm sure it was very shocking. But by the time I'd seen it, though, it was old hat. It's pretty, it's pretty. I don't want to say gruesome, but it's worse than A Cruel Picture, I think, as far as the rapes and all that stuff goes in it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it quite early on. I had a thing about collecting. They used to call them over in the UK video nasties. And I managed to get a copy from somewhere. And I can't remember how old I was, but I was probably, probably far too young to watch it, and thinking how horrendous it was. Because, like I say, the rape scene is bad enough, but then when it goes on and it just carries on and continues, it is just really awful. And but the thing is because I found it so, I don't want to say traumatizing, but upsetting at the time when I watched it when I was 8, however old I was. The then getting the revenge was actually really good, because it was kind of like, yeah, these guys totally deserved it, and
I'll give you something to remember for the rest of your life.
You can argue that it's actually more than an exploitation movie too. It's got some deeper stuff in it, and I know that sounds laughable, and a lot of people that might watch this are like, "Ooh," but it really does. There's some deep stuff. There was a guy, and I forget his name, on YouTube, 5 or 6 years ago, did an analysis of it, and he I don't like him personally because he's a San Francisco super kook, but he had a really good take on it, and man, I wish I could remember the YouTuber's name, but he did a great job, because he threw in some stuff from the director and the intent of the director and the creators of the film, and it was really meant to be more than just a a rape revenge fantasy. It's got some strong empower. I know, bear with me for a second, but it's strong empowered woman, and she goes to the one part I remember in particular was the movie's about the female and she's in the man's world, and she goes to the church and she prays to God for something, and she before she sets out on her revenge, and she does not get a sign from God telling her not to do it. So it was basically, his take was, it was the God of man saying, go for it. They did you wrong. And, I may or may not agree with most of his take, but it was a very interesting take. And I don't think he was not finding things in it that weren't there. I'll put it that way. So it was a legit take.
It is always interesting because, like you say, that with movies like that, you could just watch it and go, like you say, it's a rape revenge movie and that's kind of it. Whereas sometimes when they're done for exploitation, they are just done in that respect, for doing that. But now and then somebody is trying to actually make a piece of art out of something dramatic.
The original title, Day of the Woman, I think, tips its hand that it was meant to be. Because that's a much better title than I Spit on Your Grave. Yeah. Although I Spit on Your Grave, I guess, works with it because that's what we're used to. But if you watch it, you're like, yeah, Day of the Woman. That is a better title. Somebody wised up and said, people are going to see that and get the wrong idea about what this movie's about, though. So we need to make the title a little bit more in line with the,
I suppose calling it Day of the Woman, some women might go and see it and say, yes, I'm going to see this film to be empowered to do that. My goodness. Right. Okay. It's funny enough. It's like with Cannibal Ferox and Kill Them, Let Them Die Slowly. They're again two completely different titles, but they sort of do change the mild theme of what you're going to expect from the film.
I don't know. Either one of those, I see, kind of works, don't it? Yeah, because they do kind of die pretty slowly in it. And
no, but Cannibal Ferox, like I say, we still had to look that up to find out what it was.
Right. Yeah. which is why in the US they called it Make Them Die Slowly.
Yes. To anybody intellectual, it would have been scary. To people like us, I don't understand.
I don't understand these fancy French terms.
Yeah. With I Spit on Your Grave or Day of the Woman, whatever you want to call it, it is quite well made movie though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's which is another thing that tips its hand that it was more than just a, we'll throw it up on the grindhouse.
16 mil.
Shot it's pretty. Yeah, it's like very competently directed and shot, and it's. I mean, I don't enjoy it because it has a castration scene in it, and like I said, I saw Cannibal Ferox long before I saw that. I saw them both in the mid '80s, but Cannibal Ferox, I saw it way too young, and I've never been the same after that castration and eating.
Any scene with a knife and a sausage, and you're wincing.
Man, I really did. It really, to use a term of our current parlance, it really triggers me. Still to this day, I'm like, oh.
It is. Again, like I say, I only saw Cannibal Ferox for the first time in the last 6 months, and even I was wincing at how well it was done.
It looks so realistic, is why it's so disturbing.
Because
it's not implied either. You get to see it. You see it.
We're going off track. Look up here. I'm gonna try and do the point up here. I'm going to try and put the label up there to watch our review of Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust, because they were two very similar movies. But back to I Spit on Your Grave. The castration scene in there was done in a way, I know it's like you say, you could call it the Day of the Woman, but she does use her feminine wiles, obviously, to get back at the men.
Yeah, the leader she lures into the house. This is going to be the dumbest guy in the world, because after gang raping her with his pal, she's like, "Oh, baby, come on in. I want more." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, of course you do. It was love at first rape." And she gets him in the bathtub, and she's like, I don't know, hand job action or something, and then reaches down and sneaks a butcher knife into the tub with her. And
I'll make you feel like you've never felt before.
God bless your hands.
Wait till you feel this.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
No, not that.
It's pretty rough. It's not for the faint of heart. As I seem to remember, the first time I tried to watch it, I don't think I could finish the film because it was got kind of that upsetting. I do remember getting through it eventually, but like I say, the whole thing was quite brutal in the way it was done. So would you call it an exploitation movie?
Yeah, because it kind of become one, even if it did not intend to be.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Is that is that you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a
I mean, they
simple.
marketed they turned it into one. They marketed it into one, so it become one.
Now, just to mention, because they have had, I don't know how many sequels now, 3 or 4.
There was a remake, and then there was a bunch of sequels to the remake.
Oh, was it? Oh, right. Oh, sorry, I thought they were the original. I mean, the remake was what, 2010? I'm just quickly
Yeah,
looking it
it wasn't
up.
that.
Yeah,
I was going to say it wasn't that long ago, but yeah,
it's
20 or 10 or 15 years ago or something.
but I mean, with it to me, it had none of the impression of the first one at all.
Well, they were true, just cash grab, exploitation,
I,
direct to
I,
video trash.
I can't be bothered to write something original. I'll just remake this.
Yeah.
Which was, yeah, and then obviously they've had sequels out of that. But I mean, like I say, you're not going to come close to the original because obviously the original was so just scary. Well, not scary, but just so what's the word? Extreme at the time. People were trying to outdo each other in that extreme way, and
it's got that 70s greedy feel to it, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know. There's something about films made in the 70s of this type that have they're not slick and polished. So it seems so much more grimy and, filthy, and, everything seems so much more realistic to me.
it's funny with some of the CG and stuff. I can't remember what I was watching recently. I think it was Shang-Chi, the 10 Rings of Shang-Chi. And at the end of it, this whole CG battle goes on between these two dragons and everything else. And you're looking at it, it's going, it's all too perfect and clean. None of it's real. The only thing that's real in it is the actors and their clothes. Everything else is made up. And like you say, with those movies, they were shot on either 60mm or 35mm, but they, like you say, they had a sense of realism, like in I don't want to say like a documentary, but you were much more involved with the characters because of how real it seemed.
I tell you too, everybody in the 70s always seemed so unwashed and greasy and dirty. Their hair was long in that 70s, kind of, and I don't know, they always kind of looked like you could touch them and like a film of grime would come off of them.
Yeah, you can almost taste how bad they are.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that guy's wearing too much cologne,
Yeah.
Oh, that, you could smell BO on them, oh, that hair, you could like, use it for frying French fries at McDonald's with the grease out of it. So
Yeah.
now whether that was reality or not, probably not, but
It looked and felt that way.
To the modern eye, it does look and feel that way.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame that some people would look at it. It's the same with sort of some people that say, I don't like watching films in black and white. And you're kind of thinking, well, you're just missing out. Just because a film is old, it doesn't make it any less more impactful of what you're watching. And if it's a good story and a well-made film, you're kind of missing out, which is your own stupid fault.
Very dumb. I mean, like say somebody that never watched Young Frankenstein because it's black and white, and that's just...
I remember that on the documentary In Search of Tomorrow, they were talking about the remake. I think it was Joe Dante was talking about the remake of Psycho and how it was almost shot for shot. But he said it was a complete waste of time. But he said some people wouldn't watch stuff in black and white. And he was like, fuck them. If they're going to miss out on it, that's their own fault. Don't remake it just to try and make it better for them. It's kind of their own fault. So yeah, if you're going to miss this just because it's made in 1970, what do they say, 77?
78, I think.
78. But if you're going to miss this, it's your own silly fault because you are missing out on what is a well-crafted film, and it is difficult to watch.
If you like this kind of film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I say, you're not going to find this on Disney Plus anywhere, and it's not one to sit down with your kids unless you're trying to scare them straight somehow. So yeah, that was I Spit on Your Grave, otherwise known as The Day of the Woman.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 for technical and everything. Shocking. It's still pretty shocking. I'd say 5 out of 5 for shocking. If you haven't watched a bunch of this kind of stuff before, it's pretty gruesome.
It's not an easy watch. Yeah, I'd give it a full 5 as well, and like I say, the technical value as well. So thank you, Sean.